In this topic, we will be discussing about the plate tectonics, and in there we will be discussing about the evidence for the plate tectonics. The idea that continents could fragment and move across the face of planet was first suggested by the German meteorologist Alfred Wegener in 1912. In 1960s, new discoveries revealed the motive force. So we have discussed this already in the first topics that we were discussing about the history of biogeography, that the plate tectonics was very revolutionary idea, and it was given by the German meteorologist Alfred Wegener, but this idea gathered not much of a support but the opposition from the biologist community. And after, in the 1960s, there were some discoveries that revealed the motive force, right? So there is the plate tectonics that was behind the fragmentation of the continents, and this resulted into the making of the different areas in which the different organisms evolved differently. So these explanations were very much credible at the time in 1960s, and biologist community and the biogeographers, they accepted the fact. So the invention of techniques that use the phenomena of paleomagnetism, in which we see the presence of the magnetized particles in many rocks to trace the movement of the rocks, and therefore also the land masses in which they lie. So when there is the volcanic eruption, there are some magnetic particle in a rock, in the magma. As the magma cools down, these magnetic particles align themselves according to the polar magnetism, right? So north and south pole. But as the rocks they get colder, these magnets will be trapped. These tiny magnetic particles will be trapped, and as the rocks will be moving, we could see that how the orientation of rock, even the orientation of the whole continent, has changed according to the north and south pole, magnetic north and south pole. So Henry Hess in 1962 was the first American geophysicist who suggested that volcanic chain were spreading ridges where new seafloor is being formed. So he said that wherever there are the volcanic chains, it is normally seen that the volcanoes are in the form of chains. So what is actually happening there? It is just like that the Earth's crust is splitting its seams, right? So if this is Earth's crust, it is splitting, it is going away from each other, and where there is space, new spaces being formed, there the chains of volcanoes are there. So, and when it is expanding at one place, it should be going down in the other places as well. So there comes the trenches. The trenches are where old ocean floor is consumed downward into the earth. So it would go down, just like if this is the ocean floor, it will go down the other ocean floor and it will form a trench, right? So the space between my two hands, this is just like a trench, and in just like Mariana Trench, because in the western Pacific, in the eastern part of the Japan or the Southeast Asia, there is the deepest trench which is called Mariana Trench, where the Pacific plate is going down the Eurasian plate. So here how and why South America and Africa drifted apart. The two continents were originally part of a single continent, Gondwana, the rest of which is not shown. The upward convection current from the deeper layer of the earth appeared under them, and with the corresponding downward current further to the west in the Pacific Ocean. So what happened that you can see the arrows, the upward current of the magma, and then it pushes the South American plate towards the west, and there you can see a little bit dip in the crust as well as a movement towards the west as well. In here you can see the two continents drifting apart. The two continents, South America and Africa, are moved apart, separated by the new South Atlantic Ocean. And you can see that down the center that runs the mid Atlantic spreading ridge, and there will be high volcanic activity there on the either sides of which new ocean crust is continuously created. This extension movement is balanced by the appearance in the Pacific of an ocean trench where old ocean crust disappears into the earth. And now, how and why South America and South Africa drifted apart? The present scene is that the South America has moved westward until it is adjacent to the ocean trench. To continue to the balance to still widening South Atlantic Ocean, the ocean crust that disappears into trench is now derived from the west. The old crust now disappear below the western South America, causing the earthquake and the rise of volcanic Andes mountain. So on the east part of the Pacific, you can see the Andes mountains as well. So what is lithosphere? The surface of Earth, known as lithosphere, is occupied by a number of areas known as the tectonic plates, which may contain continents and parts of the oceans and may consist only of ocean floor. So the ocean floor move as well as the continents. So study of the movement is known as plate tectonic rather than the continental drift. So first idea was continental drift, but it is not only the continents which are moving, the ocean floors are also moving. So that's why we call this as a plate tectonics. The different plates may also move apart one another, known as the transform faults. So these transform faults are the areas of high earthquake or high volcanic activity. So here you can see the major tectonic plates. The lines within the ocean show the major spreading ridges. Dotted line indicate the position of the trenches. So wherever you can see the dotted lines, just like in the on the eastern part of the Asia, you can see the Mariana Trench, as well as along with the Africa and the Australia and New Zealand. In the western part of the southern America, you can see the trench as well. So lines within the continent show the division between the different plates. Arrow indicates the movement, just like you can see the Eurasian plate moving downward and towards the eastward, and you can see the African plate moving towards upward, and the Indian plate is moving towards the northeastern. So the Arctic plate is rotating clockwise. So the plate tectonics, all the evidence for the theory of plate tectonics was so overwhelmingly convincing that it quickly gained general acceptances by the biogeography during the 1960s, and this is how we were able to better explain the history of biogeography.